Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Word in Fashion podcast. This is where we talk about fashion, design, tech, and everything shaping the industry today. I'm Akanksha. I work across product marketing and community growth at The F Word, and I spend a lot of time engaging with designers at different stages of their design journey. So, conversations like this always feel very grounding for me. Today, I'm joined by a fashion design expert, an associate professor at NIF Delhi, Miss Neeti Banga. Neeti, how are you doing today?
Hi, Kansha. So nice to catch up with you on this beautiful platform. So,
Amazing.
yeah. Hi, everyone. It's a great day to talk about fashion and, what's happening in this world of, AI and technology on one side and craft and being rooted on the other side. So much to talk about. So, hi, everyone. As she introduced, I'm Neeti Banga and I'm teaching at NIF Delhi. I'm also an alumni of NIF Delhi and I've done my graduation in textiles and clothing honors from DU. Lady Irwin College. After that, I joined NIF to do my master's in design, specializing in leather. I worked in industry as a designer and a senior merchandiser in buying house and export houses. And after that, I've been teaching here from nearly 17 years. So it has been a great experience. And I like I say, you're the F word. So I always say F is for fashion, and fashion is in my blood too. So definitely, it's an exciting world with a lot of hard work, which people don't see the behind the scenes, right? So yeah, let's get talking about some interesting topics today. Okay.
Amazing. That was a great introduction, Neeti. Thank you so much.
Most welcome. Yeah.
Neeti, the most interesting thing is you've been teaching for over 17 years now, almost 17 years, as you said,
Yeah.
alongside your industry experience before that. I think that's long enough to have seen entire generations of designers sort of move through the system, right? I'd love to start off with asking a little about your journey. How did you sort of evolve and what eventually led you into academia?
So I didn't really want to become a teacher or an educator when I started my career because I did my graduation, as I told you, textiles, moved to leather. And after getting educated in the fashion field, I wanted to, become a designer. That's always the first dream. So I did work as a designer for a year in an export house. So then I joined a buying house where I did merchandising as my main work. And so I was handling materials, I was understanding sourcing, I was understanding garment production. I was understanding, the whole merchandising process of executing an order, how to understand the shipment. I would say 9 years. And after 10 years of industry experience, I got an opportunity to apply at my college, NIF, as a faculty. So I decided to take that chance and see how it goes, because I thought it would be great to share my learning with the coming generation.
Mhm.
And it's been nearly 17 years, as I said, and I've learned so much because I'm teaching new subjects like luxury, I'm teaching creativity, I'm teaching subjects related to social design, economics, garment production, garment merchandising, apparel, bags. And we're having every year a new batch creates a collection which we mentor. And another important area I'm teaching is craft. So craft is one area where we take our students every year to a village or a place where artisans are doing crafts. They work with them, they study about them, they create new collections. Crafts is a very integral part of NIFT because we are under the Ministry of Textiles. So Ministry of Handloom and Handicrafts, we work with them. And every year our students go after the fourth semester for 10 days to a village or a cluster, any part of India. They meet the artisans, they interact with them, they learn about how they work, the raw materials, the process, the troubles and struggles which they have, and their skills. So it's really a great way for them to connect to the grassroots and to understand and respect the artisans. They create a new collection with them. So this could be accessories, it could be apparel, it could be furniture, it could be anything. And this time they create a new range. So even the artisans get to do something new with the students.
I'm curious to understand, do experiences like these change the way you see the industry is at its current stage? Do you see the gaps much more clearly, to be specific? For example, do you think more brands should be respecting and adopting these local artisans' crafts? What do you think about it?
Totally agree, because we're having these, like the government is also talking about local, vocal for local. We're trying to ensure that we don't lose out on these beautiful crafts and traditions of our country. So every country has so many artisans, whichever country you talk about in the world. And India, is rich in textiles, rich in crafts and hand skills. So this is something which, today's generation is very much into the future. We're all talking about computers and AI, and we're so much into new things, which is again a very good thing. I'm not against it. Of course, we have to move ahead. But when we move ahead, we have to have our roots very strong. So, I feel we should have roots and wings both. So if we have roots, we are grounded. And it's very important that today's designers and brands recognize this. And even if they create apparel, they create bags, they create footwear, they need to take these artisans with them so that, they don't feel disheartened and we don't lose out on such gems. I've been talking to a lot of artisans, and like, in fact, right now I'm wearing this beautiful Fulkari stole, which has been handcrafted by a Padma Shri awardee artisan Lajwanti ji, who lives in, Patiala in Punjab. So I'm doing my PhD related to Fulkari. It's so nice to see how her daughter and future generation are also taking up these beautiful crafts. And the interesting thing, which is that, how the current generation, which are the young students, can also make this as a part of their life. And they can create products which are not just the traditional stores and the dupattas and outfits or juttis, They can create lovely things like, spectacle cases. We have hair bands. We have done collections on Fulkari where there are bangles, wooden bangles, which are covered with hand done Fulkari. We have calendars, table calendars, where every month has got a beautiful handcrafted, embroidered piece happening. We have tops, we have tiles on the wall which are made with craft. So, the luxury market can really look into this because craft is expensive. The reason why it's expensive is because it's done by hand. It is, the artisans are rare. Plus, it takes time. To make one beautiful sari, it might take 3 months, 6 months. But if you print it or you just copy it, it will be in maybe 2 days. The problem which craft industry is facing is that everything is becoming very commercialized. And people want cheaper things, they want faster things, they don't have the patience. But that is where today's new designers from NIFT or any other institute all over the world can come in front, educate the consumers about what is the beauty and why we should appreciate these artisans, why we should pay a premium price for it. And it is good for the well being of the artisans also, because they feel very confident and they feel loved, they feel appreciated, and they even do new things. So the important thing is to bring in new product ranges. Whether it could be toys, it could be jewelry, it could be furniture, it could be decoration pieces, and what wraps. So there's no end to the creativity where craft can be used. And every craft has its own plus and minus. And today's designers and brands can truly take them hand in hand and do collaborations. And the new generation of the artisans, their children can handle their social media. They can design things for them. So it's like a very good thing which is happening, and much more work should be done in this area.
Something that struck me is you mentioned well-being earlier. Can you talk a little bit about that? How does the act of creativity or creating something like this impact a designer's well-being, or let's say an artisan's well-being?
They see what is the simple word well-being? It means being well. In simple words, it means the feeling of fulfillment, the feeling of positive state of being is called as well-being. But again, well-being is a very multidimensional word, because we don't just talk about the physical well-being, which is our health. We're talking about emotional or mental well-being, which happens when we are satisfied, we are appreciated, we are well taken care of, our emotional needs. So that's our emotional well-being. Then comes our social well-being or community well-being, which is when our people around us, our family, our society is appreciating us, uplifting us, and supporting us. Then we have creative well-being, which is all about fulfilling your purpose, trying to do something which you want to do, you're taking a little risk and coming out with something unique. That's also very important. And then, of course, one of the most important is financial well-being or economic well-being. So if we're doing all these things and we're able to earn money, we're able to support our family, contribute, and also feel good that, yes, this is the value of my work, So what I'm doing itself is really being appreciated, and people are, really valuing it and giving it at the right price. So all these well-beings together combine the complete well-being or the wholesome feeling which a person has. So, for a creative person, of course, all these well-beings are very important. But for a I was a consumer also. When I buy something, like when I bought this beautiful handmade stole from this artisan, I felt good that yes, I'm supporting her, good for my emotional well-being. Plus in the society, when I'm wearing this and everybody's asking me, oh wow, is this handmade? So, it brings up my social status unknowingly and undeliberately. But yes, it makes me, other people also will support and ask me, who did you get it from? So in a way, I'm also trying to help the artisan and it helps in my overall well-being, you know. Plus, I'm supporting a culture. I'm supporting the Punjabi culture or the Fulkari art or anything which I consume, which is maybe a bandhani from Rajasthan. It could be a Banarsi sari, could be a Maheshwari, a Chanderi. It could be a beautiful wooden handicraft or a toy, Chinnapatna toy from the south. So I'm spreading it all around the world and making people aware. So it's helping their financial well-being. And if I can afford it, then why not? But what happens sometimes people feel they can't afford to buy a crafted thing. So it becomes a once in a lifetime buy that, okay, I'll buy a beautiful wooden piece, but it's for 20,000 rupees. That is why I said it's important that designers and artisans work together and create products which can be used in daily life. So, if I create beautiful crockery or I create some tabletop accessories or a nice table stand for a pen or a mobile, which is something I can buy for 500 rupees. So then artisan gets regular work and you feel good to support them. And you as a designer can create so much range. Then society, of course, uplifts, the community uplifts, and of course, the nation uplifts. So these are all like a domino effect, you know. So everybody does a little bit and everyone benefits and the well-being of everyone gets uplifted.
It's interesting to see that shift in the consumer psychology today. The consumption is more emotional. It has become more emotional than
Yes.
practical. And yeah, it's interesting to see the shift happening, but at the same time, it's also beautiful that, as you mentioned, it's about uplifting the community and the country at the same time.
You talked about emotional consumption. So, luxury market is also completely emotional consumption and psychological consumption. Is the way the brands are positioning themselves that you want to own it. It's not
Yeah.
that you need it, is that you want it. Same way, owning something related to the culture is also something very emotional. And that is why today something very important is experiential marketing. So if designers can work or brands can work with artisans and also create experiences with the artisans, you can actually invite tours going to the village. In fact, in Rajasthan and Punjab, I've seen tourism happening where people go to these artisans, they see how the block print is done, how embroidery is done. They will create their own little pieces which they can take as souvenirs. And they actually see the life of these artisans. They eat food in the village, the local food. So these are such beautiful experiences of connecting the culture, the folk art, the life, and people all over the world. So these kind of experiential things need to be promoted and talked about, I feel, whether it's luxury or it's craft. Today, experiential marketing is something very important because though we are always in our computers and laptops and very digitally connected, but somewhere everybody is missing the real connection. You know, people, especially today's youth, they have gone through the COVID time where they were on completely cut off from people for 2 years, 3 years. And everybody wants the real connections today. They would love to be around people and I think connect to people.
100%. I feel like with so much information out there, right? Consumers are more informed than ever about all the products in the market, all the brands, the do's, the don'ts, the greenwashing, as you said. But there are also, the more information that's out there, I think we as consumers are also very overwhelmed with the amount of information. What do you think today's consumer is actually looking for, or what would help them sort of cut the noise and understand what is it exactly that they want? Because I think as a consumer myself, sometimes I'm extremely overwhelmed when I'm browsing, let's say, a bunch of products to see what I want to buy. It's just become so difficult these days to choose something to consume.
Yeah. So I think a very good question you asked because what's happening is I think, even I'm going through the same thing. I look at my wardrobe and it's like full of clothes. And I'm like, oh God, what do I wear? One thing is it's very important that I'm seeing a trend towards minimalism. I'm saying people, I think COVID also helped in that way, in a sense that it made us realize that we have so much with us, which we don't get time to wear. Have enough clothes to wear for 6 months at least without repeating.
Yeah.
And that's what is important for us to be very conscious consumers. I think that is a very important thing, message to the consumers that be conscious, see what you have, evaluate it, how you can recycle it, upcycle it, You have to be a little creative in terms of, if you're not good in styling, take help from someone who's into styling, or a friend or a professional stylist who can help you mix and match and create looks. I personally am very fond of creating new looks for myself in terms of combining jewelry and accessories and, clothing. So,
Mhm.
we have everything with us. If actually you go and look at your wardrobe today, I always tell my students, go home, look at your wardrobes, pick up something from your mom's or your dad's cupboard or your brothers or sisters, and you can create such new looks with the same clothes.
Mm.
You can wear a shirt upside down, you can use a sari like a dress, so much you can do. So that is where we shouldn't restrict ourselves to what is just being given to us. So one thing is, be conscious of what you have. Second thing is, whatever you have, use it creatively. You can take inspiration. Of course, if you are not good in styling, look at others who you are inspired by. Street fashion is a great way.
Mhm.
A lot of designers look at street fashion as an inspiration, because street fashion is about an individual creating looks on their own. So even movies or art or cinema are a great inspiration. You can, if you don't know which combinations to use, look at art around you. See, oh wow, this looks good with this. Let me try this combination in my apparel, accessories, or my makeup. That is important. That be a little bold, I would say, and understand who you are. The more you try to be someone else, the more you'll be confused. So it's important as a consumer to know what's in fashion. Maybe you can read the fashion magazines or look online for trends, but always look at your own body types, your own color, skin color, you know, and see what looks good on you. I would say that's so important for you to feel good, because again, I'm talking about the well-being.
Right.
I think it's high time we start to reduce our consumption, I would say. There are many brands like Patagonia also, which
Mhm.
always say, don't buy, don't just buy things. Look at what you have. You need it, then you buy it. And
Exactly.
brands are asking you to return your old clothes. We are talking about donating the clothes. Look at the way fast fashion has really increased. We look at the discounts and we're like, oh, wow, it's just a very cheap kind of an outfit. Let's buy. But are you really, really going to need it? Do you really need another 10th black trouser?
Mm.
But you should be a little aware about what looks good on you or not. You have to understand the color schemes. Knowledge is important,
Yeah.
like there's certain colors which make your body look slimmer or more, like a more leaner look is important. So then
Definitely.
you have to wear monochromes, or you have to understand where to wear dark, light, shiny.
So I sort of picked up a few things that you mentioned that you usually tell your students. It's an interesting time to be a teacher, right? I'm sure you come across a lot of challenges with dealing with students these days, especially with AI, tech, and again, because it's a creative industry as well. What feels most challenging to you about, being a fashion and design faculty today? That's quite a shift from even like 5 or 10 years ago.
I agree. In fact, it's like every 2, 3 years, I would say the shifts are happening. It's not even like 5 or 10 years gaps now. I would say the times are very different. But
Mhm.
yes, with times we have to change, of course. And it's a great thing to have technology and things being so easy for us and for the students. But yeah, the challenges are, number one, I would say, to stay creative in a world where you're bombarded with things. Today, if you tell a child, if you tell a student, okay, why don't you take nature as your inspiration and create a collection? So first thing they will do is go to Pinterest and look at the already created, inspiration boards on nature. But that's what we tell them, go out, pick up some leaves, pick up some stones, look at the textures around you. Look at the bark of a tree, look at a stone, look at the color combinations in nature. Because God, I think, is the best artist. I mean, the supreme power, whatever you want to call them. The way, look at each flower, the way the color combinations, the details, it's like you appreciate it. So, I always tell them, even if you pick up a rose, you'll find so many lines and shapes and textures and colors in it. So the challenge is to stay unique and creative and not be just take the easy way out to, look at something already done by someone and just pick it up and copy it. So, staying original is the biggest challenge for us to tell the students and for them to be, I would say. And also, I would say that, most of them are more into texting and digital stuff. So sometimes even communication skills are a challenge. They can show everything on paper and write it, but when it comes to talking
Right.
and presenting, they sometimes feel hesitant. So I feel that is one skill we are trying to build in them, the overall personality development at NIFT. We have our mandatory classes in
Okay.
personality development and communication, where we always tell them every assignment has to be presented in front of the whole class. Nobody is judging anybody. It's just that we want you to feel confident to present your work, So over the 4 years, when they do it and when they come out of the college, I feel they are more confident. And some are naturally, but some who are not also, they do develop that confidence and speaking skills. So like, again, ethically, being honest and avoiding plagiarism and copying someone else's work and trying to show it as yours. Those are also challenges because things are easily available. Now it's easy. You pick up something and you just feel lucky that okay, nobody will catch me. But sooner or later, these things will catch up and you will lose your credibility. So, being ethical is another thing we teach them and we feel it's a challenge, Sometimes fashion industry does demand long hours.
Yeah.
It demands you to stand, it demands you to run around physically, go to the factories, get your work done, sit with tailors, sit with artisans, be patient, get the work done from someone. It's not easy. You just cannot give an order and things will be done. So you have to do it because that's where you'll feel the ownership of your work also. You'll feel more connected to your work, you give it your best. And it shows. So, you can talk about it confidently. If you've just taken it from somewhere, you cannot even talk about it.
Yeah.
So, I feel it's important to be grounded. That's why I said the roots and being grounded and ready to do the hard work. Of course, you delegate it also. But if you've not done it, you will not appreciate it. Start from the grassroots level, work, and then go up and become a manager and get it done. But if you've done it, you will appreciate it also and you will, be a better person tomorrow. Then another thing I would say is being updated is very important for today's generation, updated with the trends. And, it's like, again, that's like important, but that's easy also because of technology and internet. That has become easy. So that's a lesser challenge that used to be when we were there as students because, now it's easy. But again, you should know where to look, which is a good site to look at, like WGSN and all your, Pantone books and we have in a NIFT library, we have all the latest forecasts and everything. So you need to be updated, but again, don't blindly copy anything. That's where you as a designer should come in and use the information. So, be aware of all the AI technology, be aware of all the latest softwares, learn to use them as a tool, but don't let them master you. Don't let them take over and tomorrow you'll be easily replaced if you are just using a machine and doing the work. So, where is your contribution? That is why I always tell the students that work in industry, work in an export house first, learn the work, it's a difficult way. And then when you move up ahead, your experience will help you to become a good manager. And, that is what people will respect you because you know the work, not just because you got a degree and you're demanding a good salary. When I also went to industry, people used to be a little threatened that, oh, a woman has come to take over our jobs. That also used to be there at that time because less women were there on the floor.
Right.
So they used to be low. But I got the rapport with them and I told them, I'm not here to take your job. You do your job. I'm doing something else. We have to work together as a team. So another thing they need to learn is teamwork is very important today. That's what I teach them, that you cannot handle everything alone. Even if you start your own brand, you need a team of people. Someone doing the marketing, someone doing the social media, someone working and doing the hand jobs and hand works. So a whole team works together, develop the skills of finding who's good in your team and delegating work also very sensibly. Once I remember one designer was very sad because he was put in a merchandising team, but he wanted to design. So the right people for the right skills is very important. Otherwise, they'll never be satisfied and do their best. Yeah. So as a teacher, I feel we need to also be good mentors.
I feel like the fashion industry sometimes oversells glamour and they sort of undersell the grind that goes behind it, right? So sometimes it just feels purely creative, even for a new student trying to enter fashion education. There should be enough transparency about what goes in, being a fashion designer or a vertical in fashion.
See, the glamour is when you see a fashion show. Okay, we go to a fashion show and fashion weeks, and I'm sure you have also attended many. So we see those models coming, it looks so glamorous, they're dressed up so beautifully, and in 15 minutes, the show is over. But for that 15 minutes, they were working for at least 2-3 months.
Yes.
Even the models have been coming every day at 4 a.m. in the morning. They've been walking in those high heels. With the harsh lighting, they've been putting so much makeup. It's not easy for them. They have to maintain their figures. They have all these long hours. We just see the money which they get. We don't see the hard work. Same way the designers, they have to be ready to even face negative comments after doing so much of efforts. So, it's not easy. It's never an easy job. So yeah, because see, industry demands, fashion industry, like I said, is a very hard industry. People see the glamour, like you said. They see the fashion shows, they see the models, they see the advertisements, and they see the beautiful thing. But any product which goes in the market, when you see it on the rack, it has been so many months of fittings and trials and color combinations and which button to use, which thread to use, which needle to use. We don't realize how much goes in one simple thing. the kind of base fabric, if somebody was weaving the fabric, somebody dyed it, got the embroidery done, somebody decided what to make with that fabric, somebody stitched it, somebody marketed it. The amount of people who are getting employment of fashion industry is amazing. It is, I
Right.
think, the second largest employer of the agriculture, especially
Yeah.
in India. And the best part is we are also designers and professionals. We are also consumers. But as a fashion professional, we are more conscious consumers. We always check the quality construction. We always check if it's worth the price because we know the actual costing. So, somehow, sometimes it really pinches to pay so much money for something which I know was costed for 10 times less.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
And I end up always thinking, oh, I can do it myself.
I'm sure that comes up often that, oh, I can do this by
Oh,
myself.
yeah. And
For sure.
we always like kind of evaluating things at all time, consciously and subconsciously.
You mentioned that, of course, behind fashion shows, it takes about 2 to 3 months of all that hard work. I think students today have also realized with social media and, everybody's doing something. Hustle culture is really glorified these days. And they're expected to be creative, they're expected to be business savvy, digitally fluent, all at once. And even the pace of the industry is so fast
Very fast.
for young designers or somebody who's freshly graduated. What do you think are the skills that would make them stand out in the noise?
Okay. One of them is definitely, I would say, collaboration. Because like I said, if you said they have to become everything today. You want to become a designer also. You have to be good in your business also, and you have to be good in social media. But why? Why are you pressurizing yourself to be good in everything? You don't have to be. You're focused on being a designer. Collaborate with someone who's maybe a fashion merchandising professional or that management, fashion management professional. Take them as your manager with you or collaborate with them as a partner. Then take someone who's handling a social media completely, you know, and and there could be someone else who's handling the production part. You are the designer, somebody's doing production. So in a way, like I said, you have to create a team of people and then you can each of you do your best, you know. And I feel it's very important because, like they say, right brain people are more creative and left brain are more analytical. And totally believe in it because I myself am a very creative kind of a person. I'm not at all good in handling the business and the finance part. So I would love to have someone with me handling that part of it, the practical and cold part of it. And I want to do the more emotional and creative part and not get distracted, So that is one important advice to them that is how they can stay very relevant and true to their work and not get so bobbled up that creativity dies and you become totally commercial and you just say, okay, let's do the easy stuff because there's so much of pressure of, the numbers, the profits and the bottom lines, that's always going to be there. The challenges are always going to be there. But if you're handling everything yourself and you want to do one man show, it's very tough. So why do you want to do it? I think you have to let your ego aside and collaborate with people like you. And today, many youngsters, I know my, current generation of students who pass out, they are doing all this and they're very successful, Second thing I would say, travel a lot. It's very important to travel a lot within the country, outside the country, go to fairs, go to art shows, go to film festivals, not necessarily related to fashion. Of course, you will be attending the fashion events, but go to non-fashion events, go and do a wine tour, go and do a strawberry picking. All these things will give you the inspiration. Your world is a big inspiration for you, around you. Sometimes when you go to a village also, you can see the way people are, how are the people wearing clothes according to the weather, the kind of turbans they are tying, the kind of drapes they are wearing. If you go to Rajasthan, you find they're wearing these beautiful colored clothes because it's so dry and dull outside. And also I say be open to fusion. Like if you want to, let's say, create a Western wear outfit, I want to create a skirt and a top, a matching suit. I can always use an interesting lining of, let's say, a beautiful block print. So suddenly the Indian textiles are, combined with a Western silhouette. That creates a separate, you can have a reversible outfit, which in the evening I wear it like an Indian outfit for a, very nice occasion. So that is where your creativity will be, how to use something, a craft as a maybe a charm, or nowadays there's so much of option to do things. So be open, don't be rigid, be flexible. If you want to do everything, then you will just get lost in the crowd. And if you cannot, then once you go out in the industry, work for a few years, then also you can know, okay, what is my good thing? What am I good at? Designer? Am I good at merchandising? Am I good at what is my area of interest? And once you've found it, then go deep into it. You can be narrow focus, but a niche market where everybody knows you for that particular thing. That's how you can, maybe you're a person who works with craftsmen only, or you could be someone who's only doing specialized clothing for, let's say, pregnant women, or you're doing it for disabled people. You're using ergonomics and you're using, you know, for special needs, you're creating outfits or clothes, which is
Mhm.
you have to find the gap in the market. It's very important to do a gap analysis and see if you want to be lost in the crowd. There's so much happening everywhere. So try to find where there are less competitors and you can also contribute and create your own niche.
Thank you so much for that. That was quite a reality check, actually, because with social media, sometimes you just think, okay, I can do everything. Doesn't look that difficult. And then you get into it and you're overwhelmed with the number of things that you have to do alone.
I have to know my strengths and I have to know my weaknesses, and either I educate myself and become stronger in that area also. But then
Mhm.
also I'll be cutting myself thin because I'll be trying to divide my time in two areas.
Right.
So that is where it's important that and all this comes with maturity and with experience.
I do want to sort of touch on AI a little bit because you mentioned that as being stuck to our screens all day, not being able
Mm.
to, I wouldn't say not being able to. I think it's the lifestyle that has made us feel like we're not being able to,
Yeah.
but we actually can. How does someone, just step away from the screen because it is being a dominant theme in the fashion industry right now, rather than replacing the creativity? How do you think we can sort of avoid having students being too reliant on it?
See, AI is the future and the present also, in fact. And we are not saying don't use it. Please use it, learn about it. And it's important that today the existing brands also train their current employees to become well versed with the AI tools, because it is going to help them at the retail end. Also, it's very good in terms of creating the virtual stores, helping in your virtual shopping, your AI mirrors, all these things. So these tools, and also customizing according to the consumer. The moment the consumer enters, you get alerts and you can guide them to the kind of things they like. AI is a very integral part of the present and the future. And it is moving in a very fast pace. So internet took time to come, but AI, as time goes, the technology is much faster. And today is very important for teachers, for students, for industry professionals to educate themselves, and for the employees also to ensure that they give trainings to their employees. Sales professionals need to know the latest tools to help in increasing sales in the store, to giving a customers a very personalized and unique experience, and to get them to come again, to increase the footfall. Very important. As a designer, you need to have the latest tools to help you create virtual designs, to create combinations instead of sitting. Manual skills are important, of course, but digital skills are also important for you to save time. And
Right.
once the options are in front of you, experience and sensibility comes to choose the right options. You have to at least generate options through AI you can use, and then choose it according to your choice. And that's where your taste will come in and your knowledge and experience will come in, right? So, but it's important, like I said, for them to walk away from the screen. Like I said, that is why I said travel is important. And like we always say, I teach creativity, and creative thinking is one of my favorite subjects to teach. And one of the, biggest misconception is work is work and play is play. So, I feel play is a great way of learning. So even if you're going and doing, you have to ensure every day that you go out and meet your friends, maybe if possible, or spend time with family, go and play a sport, do swimming, do badminton, whatever you like, walk if you cannot do anything else, go to the gym. So when you go to these environments and you interact with the products, if I'm interacting with the gym machines or I'm interacting with nature around me, that is where also I'm observing. So, observation is a very, I would say, subconscious way, grasp things in your mind. So tomorrow, if I have to, design something, a bench, I can take inspiration from a log and create a bench, which people do. So observe what is already designed and see what is around you, which can be taken as inspiration. Inspiration is what everybody, if I show a rose to five people, every designer will create something different from it. Someone will take just one petal and create something, and someone will pick up the whole rose and do something with it, and someone create a print out of it. So, it is your observation and your experiences. So you have to really, I would say, read a lot, not just on the screen. Pick up a book. I don't know how many people today are reading books. They're actually picking a physical book, turning the pages and reading it. Sometimes these words are also inspiring prints. I worked with the Fulkari artisans, and they created a beautiful stole where in the Punjabi language, the Gurmukhi language, they were writing things on the stone. So that was a text which was like an embroidery. So, it's like things can come up in a very different way. So you have to know how to do it differently. So that only happens when you leave the screen, and because on the screen, what will you find? Something which has already been done. That is secondary research. We always tell students primary research is what is going to be your own inputs. Secondary is important to first do secondary, see what others have done. Now you have to think, okay, this has not been done. Identify the gap. And there's a technique called as absence thinking in creativity, where we actually try to first see what is present and then try to see what is absent. So I think absence thinking is a very important technique today. Something like brainstorming, mind mapping. So these creative tools are what you need to use. But we still tell the students use post-its, write things with your hand. Because when you write things with your hand, you're more invested into them. Everything is being typed and printed. And when you type and print something, you're not connected to it as well as you are when you draw it or write it. We try to tell them to create 3D things, and you still have to use your tactile skills.
This one last question before we sort of close the conversation. I know your expertise lies in working with crafts, especially because you're doing your PhD in it right now. For a young designer who genuinely wants to work with crafts and also responsibly, what what should they understand first about the area in general and also how to go about it?
The first step is always the secondary research, right? So whichever craft you want to research about, first see what's written about it, read some books about it, blogs, or you can go to that particular state website and see what all has been said about it. And then you can physically go to, maybe like example, let's say I'm doing the crafts of Punjab. So I will go to the Punjab Emporium. I will go and see the pieces which are there, already made by artisans and kept there. So this is all a part of my second primary research before I actually go to the artisans. Then the second step is, of course, that, connect to them in advance. Before you go to the artisans, talk to them on the phone maybe, or do a video call if they're comfortable. And so that, they're a little comfortable with you coming there, because you as a student, a design student, may be a very new person, a different generation, a different background, and they are living in the grassroots. They may not be so comfortable with you to open up. A little bit of ice breaking has to be done before you reach, and once you're there, small tokens of taking little sweets for them, for their kids, maybe some stationery, some colors. We always tell the students to take little gifts for them, whatever possible in their budgets, and just to feel a little connected and closer to them, and they also feel respected, you know. And then they need to first do understand what are the materials they're using. They need to see the life, the habitat where they live, what are the kind of conditions they live in. Are they having facilities of water, of, are they safe from the elements, the temperature, the summer or the winters? Because most of the communities have adapted to the situation around them. Like you have terracotta homes, you use those matkis of terracotta and mitti to cool the water. They may not have a fridge and electricity, but those
Yeah.
things are there from years. So these are the things they need to learn and understand, that how people in the world are living. Everybody is not born with ACs and fridge. They are living very happily. It's not that they're feeling deprived. They are very happy in that living. And how they're, it's not that they cannot afford to wear expensive clothes, but for that weather, maybe cotton clothing is the best. A very lightweight cotton, which is drying very fast, which is absorbing your sweat. And then they need to talk to those artisans and understand the kind of tools they use, how they use. Even some of the tools are created by them. Like, for example, in block printing, there are separate people creating the blocks. So,
Right.
even that is important to learn what wood is used, how they're carving it, how much time it takes, so that, you're more sensitive and you appreciate that, wow, this is the block which took like 30 days or 20 days to make just the block. Then, how I would say, dyes are made, what are the natural ingredients being used. Same way for embroidery, what kind of yarns are used. Earlier the indigo threads were used or natural colors are used. How fabrics are being dyed and woven. So much is there to learn. You have to be patient. You don't have to, everything cannot be recorded all the time. Even if
Yes.
you record, you have to physically be present to absorb it. So that's
Definitely.
important. And again, that ego has to be left out of the door.
Yes.
Because just because, let's say, you are from NIFT or you are from a very international institute and you have a lot of degrees and money in your background, doesn't mean that anybody is lesser than you. You have to respect every human being, and you can learn from everybody. And in fact, you should also help them. We tell them to teach them maybe how to create an Instagram account, or help to promote their work on social media. We also tell them to create maybe visiting cards or posters for these artisans and put them in the city and spread a word. So these things are so important that is how you learn and create a symbiotic and relationship. And we've seen artisans being so helpful, so friendly, and so caring for these students. One of them had even they actually took a cooler on rent in the summer season in Rajasthan for the students. So I feel students have to be aware about these things, educate the artisans, help them out, and also be very humble and learn. Humbleness is very important and it should be natural. It should not be something you're putting in an act. So that is where I feel as mentors, we also guide them. And I hope they're successful and they do well in life and they always walk hand in hand with the craftsmen.
I'm sure that's a wonderful initiative, and it's really touching to learn
Yeah.
their stories, sit with them, spend time.
So it is, you learn, I mean, their life journeys are my whole PhD studies about the life journey of these artisans and their narratives. You learn so much about what life they've learned as children, what they were, and today how they're really becoming torch bearers for the other women in their society and their own children. And, because many Indian societies had that patriarchal life also where women were very subdued. So I'm working with the crafts women and I see how they're coming up and having a voice today. So we always tell them that, you also should see these and support and be a part of this change. If you have to be part of the change you want to see in the society, you know. And again, everybody's well-being benefit with all these things.
Beautifully
Yeah.
said. It also circles back to the whole collaboration that you mentioned, right?
Social media is today all about collabs. So collab is
Yes.
a word which everybody understands, but yes, there are many dimensions to it.
I'm sure this is wonderful advice to all young designers, students, and even us as consumers. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective.
So
I
thank
think-
you so much for, taking me on this and letting me share my insights. I wish the best to all the design professionals who are listening and who want to be part of this industry, that work hard and do your best and, find your niche and walk hand in hand with the grassroots. Thank you so much, Akanksha.
Hopefully, we can do this soon
Of course.
again.
Thank you so much, Akanksha. Lovely talking to you and have a great day.
Thank you.